Hello, world, and welcome to the For Your Best Self podcast. I'm Dr. Saluja, cosmetic dermatologist and co-founder of Dermatology Plastic Surgery. And today I'm proud and pleased to host Michele Rigby Assad. Michele is a former CIA, counterterrorism officer, and international security consultant, and an author whose extraordinary experiences have given her unique insights into navigating challenges, both in high-stakes environments and everyday life. Michele's written 2 compelling books, Breaking Cover, My Secret Life in the CIA, and What It Taught Me About What's Worth Fighting For. And her latest book, Get Off the X, CIA Secrets for Conquering Life's Obstacles and Achieving Your Mission. As you know, on this podcast, we like to discuss all things related to For Your Best Self. And that includes resilience, personal growth, and navigating life's challenges with confidence. Michele's journey is nothing short of fascinating. Today, we're going to dive into her wisdom in covering practical tips that can help all of us. Michele, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Dr. Saluja. I'm so happy to be here with you.
I'm so glad as well. When does your book get released?
It was released last week.
See, I had an advance cover copy, so thank you. I have so many questions for you today, so I'm going to just start because we're here to help everyone. We were just talking about how we want to talk about ourselves, but only in the way to help others.
Exactly. Yes.
So what inspired you to transition from the CIA to becoming an author and speaker?
Yeah. So Joseph and I, so my husband Joseph, served alongside me in the agency for 10 years. And because we came in right on the heels of 9/11, that 10-year career was really challenging. We had 5 tours overseas in the Arab world. A lot of these locations are either war zones or very similar to a war zone. And now they've been classified as war zones. So after about 10 years of barely seeing our families, being undercover, looking over our shoulders for hostile surveillance, trying not to become the target of kidnapping or carjacking or criminal activities, we were exhausted. And so and then one of his parents passed away, and we just knew it was time. Like, okay, it's been a great career, but you can't do that forever. Like,
right.
Yeah.
You can't. How was reintegration back from being in the CIA?
So hard. So hard. And I'll tell you why, because when we left the agency, we really couldn't tell people what we'd done for 10 years. We had no resumes. It's like this huge chunk of your professional career, and you have nothing to show for it. You don't know what you're worth. You don't know what you can do on the outside. And this was...
You can say you worked for the CIA.
No.
You can't always. Okay.
No. In fact, most of the time you can't.
Oh.
So, I mean, good luck getting a job out of the agency.
So what would you say?
You have to keep your cover, whatever that cover is. And you have to literally keep that cover the rest of your life unless you get special dispensation to say otherwise.
So you were able to...
I was eventually able to drop cover to put out the first book.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what inspired you to want to put out the first book?
Yeah. So I remember in the agency how intimidated I was as a young lady going in my, I think it was 27 when I went in, and I had massive dose of imposter syndrome. I was terrified. I had no idea if I could do this job. It was dangerous. And I'm like, I spent so many years second guessing myself, not knowing if I had the right skill set, until I got to my 3rd tour in Baghdad. And Baghdad was the one place that I went kicking and screaming, I don't want to do this. Interestingly, Baghdad was the place that I really grew into being myself, like the best intelligence officer. It happened in the war zone.
Interesting.
And I thought, once I finally realized that I was not just average or even below average, that I was actually really good at the job, it was just this life-changing, life-altering moment for me. I mean, I don't know if you had that as a doctor where you're like, I'm actually really a doctor and I'm really good at this.
Yeah.
I was like...
Did you have a moment where you realized that?
I did. I had
Was there a story in that moment?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, you ready for the story?
Yeah.
So up until this moment, I had been held back from being involved in counterterrorism operations with the terrorists and insurgents themselves.
Okay.
So there was this idea at the agency that men were better suited to this job.
Mm-hmm.
And so for years I thought, well, why did you train us to do this if you don't want us to do it? But they were also discounting the fact that I had a master's degree in Arab studies. I had traveled all over the Middle East.
Right?
Yeah,
right.
I had been abroad so much. I had been a student in Egypt. But finally, this terrible terrorist attack was carried out against a U.S. citizen, and everyone was so busy. So they kind of threw this project my way. They're like, please try to find out who ordered and executed this terror attack against this 27-year-old American who was doing work in Baghdad. And I got this job, and my husband said to me, why don't you come in and debrief this terrorist, my terrorist source, yourself, because nobody knows more about this attack than you do. So instead of just trying to figure out which sources could answer these questions, why don't you do it? I was like, what? And so our bosses all said, yes, you can go do this. So here's my first terrorist meeting. I'm shaking. My heart is racing. I'm sweating.
And that's okay because it's the first time, right? That's what people have to be comfortable with that.
You have,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, it's okay to be nervous and do it anyway.
Yeah, and if you're not, like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah, it's because you care. Nervousness is a sign you care.
That's right.
Especially if you've prepared. You've prepared for this.
I did that self-talk in that moment before I walked in the room. I was like, Michelle, you've been preparing this your whole life. You're ready. Just walk in this room, whether you're confident or not. You hold your head up. You assume a posture of authority, and you do it. And so I walked in that day, and I realized that I was at such a disadvantage as a female in that room with a guy who has terrible ideology about women and what they should and shouldn't be doing. And then I've got to find some way to cross this gulf between me and this terrorist who we do not have the same worldview. We do not hold the same values. But I have to get him to trust me and see me as a professional intelligence officer. And so it's this like enormous challenge. And I was like, EI, emotional intelligence, kick in now. And I figured out in like 5 minutes or less how to impress this guy with my intelligence, with my Arabic language skills, with my projected confidence. And I was able to literally flip the equation, turn the tables, and make this guy like me, be impressed with me, and decide to work with me.
Right.
Which was like a massive transformation.
Right. And then you said,
oh my gosh, I can do this.
I can do this. Yeah.
And I literally walked out of the debriefing room and I felt like I could fly. I was like,
yeah, it's a moment,
Such a moment. It was as if, I know, it's so funny, like the heavens opened up, the angels were singing, the light of heaven was beaming down. I was like, oh my God, this whole time I thought I was like substandard, and now it's actually the opposite of that. And so I thought, I just learned so much that would benefit so many women. How often do we hold ourselves back because we don't think we have what it takes? So we shoot low. We do what we think is possible. And then we miss out on being extraordinary.
Yeah, and extraordinary is needed in all facets of life's, all positions, right? You don't need to be an agent to have an extraordinary career.
In fact, I think it's what you do in the moments when you're not, quote, the big intelligence officer. It's what I did as a secretary and administrative assistant. It's all those positions I took, and I said, I may be the least important person in this room, but I'm going to do the very best job I can wherever I am, no matter who's looking and who doesn't look. Like, excellence is my standard, no matter what.
That's that journey, and that journey, journey paid off.
It paid off, yeah.
Yeah, and you get to feel that. No, that's amazing. In the CIA career, were there pivotal moments or a moment or some stories related to those moments that shaped your perspective on resilience or on keep striving?
Yes. So many, but I, in particular, can tell you that as I was moving through this 10-year career, the first place we served, the 2-year tour, should have been a year tour because it was like a war zone, but wasn't classified as such, but it was super dangerous, We did 2 years there. It was so hard. I had a terrible boss, very toxic environment. So it's bad inside, it's bad outside.
What made the boss not a good boss, or the environment not a good?
He I think was going through some really deep personal issues. Of course, nobody knew, and he took it out on everyone around him. Like, for instance, he didn't even speak to me for the first 3 months I was on the ground.
Okay.
Literally would walk by me in the office and not even say good morning.
Okay. Conversely, what would be a good work environment or work with? Because someone might say, well, being an agent doesn't seem like a good environment. But
conversely, I would love if my boss had said, hi, good morning.
Yeah.
And then let me sit down and find out who you are as a person, so I know as an operational manager how to use you in CIA.
Okay. Yep.
Not once did I ever have that conversation.
So you figured that out.
Yeah, I was like, man, when I become a manager, I'm going to be that person. I'm going to do that. So that was hard. And then the next year was really hard. And then we got surged to Baghdad during the worst part of the war. And then we went to another really, not a war zone, but a very dangerous place, very difficult place, serving on a compound. And Dr. Saluja, it was so hard, and I kept wanting to quit. And I cannot tell you how many times I wanted to get out of there.
Why didn't you quit?
I didn't know what else to do.
Okay.
I didn't know what to do. You work so hard to get in, you're in, and then you think, well, I what's the plan B? I don't even know. And you're abroad. So how are you going to find another job when you're on the front lines of a war zone? So the resilience, the realizing, okay, so here is seriously delayed gratification. This is 10 years of difficulty. And as I had one foot outside the CIA, as I know I'm about to leave, I realized that if I had gotten all those tour locations that I desperately wanted in beautiful places with, luxury accommodations and beautiful food and wine, I would not be a counterterrorism expert.
Right.
If I had served in these beautiful cities in Europe, I hadn't dealt with so many lying terrorists or lying sources, I wouldn't be a counterintelligence expert.
Right.
So basically, I realized that as hard as that was, and the fact that I wanted to quit almost every day, the fact that I had hung in there longer than other people meant I had this level of expertise that was off the charts and still is. And that has fueled my post-CIA career. Because I had experiences like so few people on the planet have ever had. And you can't get that by doing the easy, is what I call it. You get that by doing the hard. Right.
And there is hard available in everyone's lives if you let it be there.
It's, it's putting your best foot forward in every job. It's, seeing that your boss needs extra help. It's taking a project nobody else wants, honestly. I don't know how many times I did that. I took the low jobs. I took the projects other people didn't want. And I said, each time, I'm going to try to show that I care about excellence and I have integrity with everything that I do. And that's, I think, it doesn't happen quickly. It doesn't happen fast, but it eventually does kick in. So now I have 2 books under my belt. Like, again, you can't write 2 books without seriously struggling and the difficulty. And I don't know if people want to hear that or not. I mean,
I think they do.
Do they? I mean, it's a little scary what I'm saying. You got to be willing to tough it out.
And you're obviously saying there's rewards for toughing it out.
Yes. But you have to be patient. Because that growth comes as a result of marinating in the struggle. So I remember there were a couple of sources that there were so many red flags that I saw when I was meeting with these sources. And I was so exhausted. We were working so hard. And I didn't even get enough sleep at night. I would wake up just as exhausted as when I went to bed. We'd get shelled all night. Then we'd get shelled all afternoon. It was so ridiculous. Car bomb would wake us up and jolt us out of bed every morning. And then I could have just discarded this sense that there was a problem with the source. And instead, I entertained it. And then I marinated in it. I said, there's something here I need to figure out.
Right.
And it would take me days of marinating in this, like, what is bugging me about the source? And then I eventually figured out, oh my gosh, this source who claims he's the emir of an al-Qaeda cell, or the leader of a cell, he doesn't behave like all the other terrorists I've met. And then I realized that my supercomputer brain was subconsciously telling me he doesn't fit the behavioral patterns of a real terrorist, meaning, like, I'm telling you, these guys are fascinating. These real terrorists are such narcissists. They're so arrogant.
That makes sense.
Like, they're so full of themselves. And this other guy who claimed he was a terrorist was kind of weak. I shook his hand. It was like a cold fish handshake. Like, he was shaking when he got in the car when I picked him up. He was terrified. He was like the opposite of arrogant.
Right.
And that was my indicator that he might not be a terrorist. And at the end of the day, we carried out a huge investigation and found out he was lying to us, and he wasn't.
So it's giving that space and time to step back and reflect, and how to approach the challenge.
Yes.
With a strategy versus I'm going to exit.
Yes. I hung with that, and I am so proud of myself for doing that, because that hanging with the difficulty is how I figured things out.
We talk a lot about excellence being persistence and consistency.
Oh.
And so a lot of things, right, are just over time being persistent. You're persistent a little bit longer, and you're consistent. You
100%.
You show up, you do the work.
Yes.
Whatever work at home or work at outside of home, or work on yourself or work with others, and then and you're persistent about that consistency, and it pays off.
I would say that on that theme, nothing in my life has ever been easy. Like, I see people, I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, overnight success and everything is simple, and they decide to do something and they just do it.
That's marketing. That's not the truth. Every success is hard work.
You know, but you think, you're like, you perceive otherwise.
Yeah.
And then I realized that, like, I usually win, or I usually succeed, if you want to use these words, because I literally just don't give up.
Yeah.
I know I'm not the smartest person in the room. I'm usually not the most capable either.
So if you were, Michele, giving advice on what not giving up and getting off the X, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Not giving up, we understand, but how do you apply that to getting off the X?
Yes. So I think that as human beings, being stuck, feeling stuck, or being uncertain of what to do with your personal or professional life, like, it is something we all deal with. It's like part of the human condition. And but too often we get stuck, and because we don't know the next perfect step, we don't do anything. And then we sit there in our comfort zones, and we don't ever push ourselves forward. So get off the X is really a counter ambush term that we use in the CIA and military and law enforcement that says if you're ever ambushed or there's a terrorist attack being launched against you, your best chance of success is to literally get off the site of the attack. So the X is the site of the attack, literally. And so they say, most humans have this freeze response.
Right.
And it's the freeze response that gets you killed.
Okay.
So
fight or flight is okay. Yes. You can't freeze.
Anything.
Yeah, we're going to freeze, fight or flight.
Yes.
Yes.
And so when we went through this training in the CIA.
So they're teaching you don't freeze.
Don't freeze. Push off that X. And they're like, the best place to be overseas.
You can flight, or you can fight. And preferably, in a lot of situations in real daily life, you fight.
Yeah.
And it might not mean traditional fighting, but that might be where that persistence,
resilience,
or the resilience.
The persistence, the perseverance. I love those words. They're my favorite words because they sum up like how you become successful.
Right.
And it also indicates that instant gratification is not what we should expect. Though culture would tell us otherwise. I mean, we get this message everywhere, right?
Right.
Like, if you want it, get it now.
And I think that's the false message.
It's destructive. Destructive message. And then, if you see it all the time on social media, like, here's your hack to do A, B, or C.
Mm-hmm.
If you can't find a hack, then forget it. If it doesn't happen quickly, try something else. Or if it hurts, quit.
Right.
That's a very dangerous message. It's the opposite of what success requires.
Right. So how do you determine if that quote unquote hurt means you should push through it?
Yeah. So there, every situation's different. Let me just say, like, in my book, Get Off the X,
Mm-hmm.
my cousin was trapped in a toxic, unhealthy marriage.
Mm-hmm.
You don't want to stay in that.
Right.
That's not something
That's clearly right.
Okay. Now, the hard part is, if you can't support yourself, how do you get out of that marriage?
Right.
So what I show is Narina's resilience in saying, this is the hardest thing I've ever done, but my dream to be a nurse
Mm-hmm.
is what I'm going to pursue, even though I have a newborn, a preteen, and a teenager, and I'm a mom and a wife.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell people that's the pain that you embrace.
Yes.
Because that's the pain that moves you forward.
Right. That's a great example.
Yeah.
So fear can hold us back from
my
pursuing that change. You've obviously managed fear in high pressure situations. Most of us are not going to experience those situations. So how do we apply your lessons without going through that experience to get over some of our fear in everyday life?
Yeah. So I think it's important to say that fear is very natural. And like for me, like people hear about my bio, and I've traveled to over 50 countries, and I lived abroad for 10 years, and I've been in such dangerous places, and I was a spy. So that sounds so impressive. And I get this all the time, especially from women who say, you must be fearless. And like I'm some different strain of humanity, when I'm like the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
And I say, there was always fear, there was always intimidation, but I just never let it stop me.
You did it anyway.
I did it anyway.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to go through this CIA training. I have no idea if I can figure out if somebody's surveilling me. I don't know if I can figure out if somebody's a double agent. I don't know if I could save myself in an ambush. But you know what? I'm going to do the best I can. I'm going to give it a try.
Right.
So fear is normal. It's how you respond to that fear that's going to make such a huge difference in your life. I always like to say fear is one of the most powerful motivators. So now...
So don't use it as an obstacle.
Yes.
Use it as a motivator. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm sure you know people in your life that were said to you, like, you're going to be in school for how long to become a doctor? Don't you fear, like, all the difficulties involved in that process?
Right.
It's like the hardest thing to do.
Right. You do it anyway.
I
was taught you do it anyway, even though I'm afraid a lot of things I do anyway.
Right?
Right.
So, and yet I meet people all the time who say, gosh, I was raised to believe that fear meant here's the line, don't step over it.
Mm-hmm.
And families tend to teach that within families. So you have to say, like, what's my family been teaching me, either consciously or subconsciously? Right.
To see what is your response. And a lot of what we're talking about makes it's easier, not very easy, but easier to apply in real life. But then when you're in real life, but when you have a stressor, then we do go back to freezing, fleeing, or fighting. How were you taught? Were you trained, or is there training that people can do in their everyday life where they're not freezing as much if they have a tendency to freeze?
So you have to address your mind. So the critical piece here is what you're thinking in your head. Right?
Okay.
So that's why the CI put us through the counter ambush training. So we are going to put you through an actual simulated situation that feels and looks like a terror. We're even going to put you in a car. We're going to put that car in the middle of the woods.
Okay.
And you're going to drive down this road, and then what they did was they would kill the ignition switch.
Mm-hmm.
So the car would suddenly not be able to operate. And then people that look like terrorists would come out of the woods with their Al-Qaeda banners.
So you're having simulation. Okay.
Full on, like even flashbang grenades going
Okay.
off. Like and we're in all of our gear.
It's the best way to learn. Through experience.
I'm telling you, I hated that so bad. Like, I hated this training. But I kept thinking to myself, it could save your life one day, Michelle. So what they're saying to your brain is you're going to have this huge dump of adrenaline. You're going to be thoroughly confused, but you know the steps, and you know that you have to eventually try to drive off the X. If you can't drive, which they made sure we couldn't because they killed the ignition, you've got to get out and run, and you have to run in the opposite direction of your attackers, which sounds like, do you really have to tell people that?
But you do, and
you do
when you're in a situation.
So what they would say is like the attackers are on the left, contact left or contact right. So you had to identify where the attackers were. Right. Contact left, which means you'd have to run out the opposite part of the car, like the right-hand side of the car. So what that means in real life is you practice getting off the X. So you practice doing the little hard things. Then when the big hard things come up, you've been in that posture and your brain goes, yeah, I've done a hard thing before. Oh, okay, I know how to do this.
Do you have an example of a little hard thing in everyday life?
It's doing things that you're not sure if you can do them.
Okay.
Whatever that is.
Okay.
Yeah. Even small things, it doesn't matter. You're still training your brain.
Okay.
And then as you build up your capabilities, you're going to be capable. You're just going to be able to do more and more. And your brain's going to go, yeah, I've been there before, and I know what that is, and I can handle it. Yeah.
Oh, that's good advice. So start small.
Yep.
Train your brain.
Yes.
Then go on to more challenging things.
100%. Yeah.
And I think we start small in certain, driving a car, right? We start small. We learn how to drive faster. We learn how to take on the highway. Parallel park is where we finish, if we're lucky. But it's starting with the small skills whenever you're learning something new. So I think it's applying that to your daily life, where maybe it's not new, but you've just avoided it.
Yes. And then, once you've talked to somebody who's been through something really traumatic, very difficult, which all these people that I highlight and Get Off the X have, I have it. My sister was a teenage mom, so she got pregnant at 15, had a baby at 16, so here she is, a teenage mother. I have another friend who was in a really bad car accident, hit by a drunk driver, lost all of her memory. She had profound amnesia, didn't know who she was, and would never regain that back. I had a friend of mine who was held hostage as a human shield by Saddam Hussein in Iraq, as an American who just got caught up in Kuwait when the invasion occurred. So this poor man was shuttled around Iraq with like hundreds of other human shields, and so when you talk to these people, you realize that what got them through the hard times is them telling themselves that they would get through.
Right. Okay. That's their mind. Right.
The inner dialogue.
Right.
Yeah. I can endure this. This is hard, but I'll get through it. And that internal dialogue is really, really important. So if you're listening to Instagrams or TikToks all day that are taking you down a rabbit hole of life is crap, everything is bad, our generation is entering a sucky world, we can't afford anything and nothing will ever change. That doesn't. You
got to change that dialogue.
You can't keep listening to that crap. Yeah. You'll never be able.
That's not setting yourself up for getting off the X.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. You got to start listening to people who say you can and you will, and whatever you're going through right now is not going to be forever. Like. Right. Yeah.
Yeah. This too shall pass. And yeah. You're you talk about this toughness, and we're talking about mental toughness more so really than even physical toughness, right? It's mental and what your inner dialogue is. How do you do that? How do you balance being tough like that with also some of those feminine traits of empathy and compassion and understanding?
I love that question.
It's even, let's say it's not even you, it's a friend or a loved one that's stuck.
Yeah.
How do you help them?
So I always say, like, you can find aspects of your personality that are a little bit hidden or scared to come out that you can cultivate and you can find. So for me, raised in the South, a sweet Southern girl, and I don't know growing up, how many times I was told, you're such a sweet little girl. And I was. It was a really cute little thing. And then I started traveling as a student to the Middle East for studies. And in the Middle East, if you don't stand up for yourself, you're going to get eaten for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Okay.
Somebody's going to have you. Like, it's a different culture. It's not the American South. It's not the United States. It's the Middle East. They have a very different set of ideas and how the world runs. So what I had to learn in Egypt.
And the people that you were interacting kind of with what you were doing over there was involved in a sort of different setting.
So I was a student.
Okay.
Yep. And I was walking the streets of Cairo. I was living in Egypt. And I realized that I had to pull out of myself this side that I didn't know existed, which was tough. And I could stand up for myself, because this is what you have to do in Egypt. In the marketplace, you're buying things or you're negotiating. You have to negotiate for everything. So everything is a fight, is a better way maybe to say that. It sounds weird, but this is what they do, and it's not bad. It's just how they do things. And so I had to learn how to stand up for myself, negotiate, drive a hard bargain. I was like, wow, I didn't even know I had that. And so also I learned how to act differently in the Middle East. Like,
how do you stand up for yourself, but in a way that feels positive?
I think you can always be assertive and kind at the same time.
That's,
Yeah, it's an interesting mix. People don't necessarily expect it, but I smile a lot. I'm just a generally smiley person.
I think smiles help.
Smiles help a lot, no matter what culture you're in. Well, yeah. Russians don't like smiling very much as a culture. So they kind of look at you like smiling is stupid. But most cultures are very like,
in the everyday, right?
It breaks barriers,
Right.
The old, Iron Curtain countries, it's perceived differently. But so you can be tough, but tough doesn't mean being mean to someone.
Right.
It doesn't mean being aggressive. It just means being very clear.
I like that.
Yeah.
It means being clear. How can women better support or uplift other women who might be going through a personal or professional journey? So, how could you support a friend or a coworker if you feel that you don't freeze, you get off the X, you feel like you're persistent, you're being consistent, you've got resilience, but you're noticing somebody around you may need support or assistance, or you're seeing those patterns, but you want to help in a way that it's heard or appreciated or wanted even. Do you wait for someone to ask you for help, or how do you approach that?
So,
even for me as somebody who has employees or staff, and I may want to help someone grow or mentor, but I don't want to be perceived as I'm overstepping.
Right. So I think that when you are proficient in getting off the X, when you've learned these life lessons, I have, and when you get to a certain age, hopefully you've learned that, we have a responsibility to help others get there. Or maybe you're young and you've already learned that. Good for you. That's amazing. Like, you have to help other people. So one thing I like to do is I say, let's sit down and talk about your dreams, your goals. And then I ask questions. Have you considered A, B, or C? Have you considered this? And what I try to do is I try to point out some unrealized gifting that to me, is super obvious. Like, you are amazing in this area. And I can't tell you how many times I was a manager in the CIA. They were like, what? They didn't even know. Or they might have had an inkling, but no one that they ever respected told them that. So I said, you are really good at this. You should really work to develop that in yourself, which means here are some ways to do that. Take on some harder projects.
That's great advice.
Like, push yourself forward so that you can further develop these capabilities and these giftings. So getting off the X is often helping people understand they're stuck
Mm-hmm.
and pointing out something that might be obvious, like don't you know you're really this or that, or you're in the wrong position altogether.
Mm-hmm.
I remember I had to fire someone, which is like the worst possible thing to have to do
Mhm.
as a manager.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's terrible. You can't sleep the night before. So bad. And the way that I ended up going in that day, he came into my office and I asked him this question. I said, "Are you happy in this position?" And he just looked at me really funny. I'm like, "I see you walk in here every day. Your head is down. You seem really like the world is on your shoulders. You're just downtrodden. You don't smile. You don't seem energized." And I said, "Do you even like this work?" And he goes, like, he was shocked. And I ended up, he wouldn't say anything. I ended up saying, like, "You know what? This is not a good match. You do not fit. Your skills do not match the requirements of this job. So you're going to have to look for a different job in the agency." He came back he was very angry with me.
Mm-hmm.
He came back to me 6 months later. He walked in my door and I was like, "Oh no,
Mm-hmm.
he's going to yell at me or something."
Mm-hmm.
And he actually thanked me. He said, "I didn't realize how miserable I was. And you did me the best possible, like, you had to let me go, but it was good because now I'm actually in a job that matches my passions and skill sets, and I'm like a different person."
A lot more workplace and friendship communication is digital, though. It's on email or phones. Are you able to help someone in the same way on through those platforms versus these conversations?
No.
Okay.
I just
I
find
would
them
think you
super
don't.
limiting.
Okay. So it's really about engaging.
Face-to-face.
Yes.
Face-to-face is important, and I know that it's a generational shift, the comfort level with that. And so maybe this is getting off the X for people in their 20s and 30s, is learning
I like that.
to have conversations with your bosses or your teammates or whomever, like,
Right.
in your life. And they're at first going to be very uncomfortable because
Mhm.
this is uncharted territory. But if you can learn how to interact with people in real life, you're going to have such a leg up on everyone else
Mm-hmm.
who's just feeling comfortable on their devices. Like, this is, hey,
It's
that in and of itself,
that's a big accomplishment. Yeah.
it's huge.
Yeah. It changes your life, being able to have good
Yeah.
conversations with others. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
The journey you described for yourself is incredibly empowering. Do you have advice for people who are on their journeys who are facing self-doubt or imposter syndrome? They've done their work, but we all face that as we get into the next
Yeah.
levels.
I having dealt with this myself, when I left Central Florida and I got married, moved to DC. DC is filled with all kinds of type A personalities, and everybody is so full of confidence.
Right.
You're like, "Well, I'm not." So is their expressed confidence, does that tell me they really are confident and they really are intelligent?
Right.
It's so funny, my initial...
Or are they plain?
Or
yeah,
they just...
different?
Yeah. And I learned later on, like, I mean, my first perception is that everyone in DC is super smart and knows exactly what they're doing. And then after being in DC for years and years, I was like, oh boy, it's almost the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there very few people actually know what they're doing well.
Mm-hmm.
Like, are super... So I always tell people, like, you want to build a career, become a substance matter expert in
first.
something.
Right.
Like, choose that, find that niche, find that thing that makes your heart sing, whatever that is.
Mm-hmm.
And then really dig on that and don't
Mhm.
let it go, and like make that your thing. Then you come to the table with something that most other people don't know.
Right.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I love helping people find
that subject matter
Yes.
expert
Yes.
situation. So, okay. So, as you're talking about that, if listeners could take away one key lesson from today's conversation and your book, Getting Off the X, what would that?
It would
What
be,
would that be?
to think of one way you can push yourself off the X. If it's a big X, it's a small X, it doesn't matter. Like, even a small X, like, I have a project I need to accomplish, I don't know how to do it. every day, ask yourself, today, how do I push this forward?
Mm-hmm.
And getting started is the hardest part. So
I
you
would
just do
agree.
something, even if it doesn't work. Like, it doesn't have to be successful. It doesn't even have to work. But I always say, like, energy begets energy, movement begets movement. So even the imperfect start is still a start.
Right.
So
I would agree.
yeah, that's like and it's those baby steps that really get you where you need to go.
Is there anything we didn't cover today that you would like to make sure our listeners knew
Probably that you're
about you or your message?
probably just that you're probably more capable than you think you are. I say that for almost everyone. I think that just is part of the adventure of being a human and like exploring your world. It's not, and it's not at the end of the day. Sorry, here's my,
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, it's really not about self-actualization,
Mm-hmm.
even though that is important, but only in as much as that helps you help someone else.
Right.
Like, this is my life mission to help people understand the altar of self is very empty. Like, Instagram will make you think it's all about self-love, and I think at the end of the day, that's what induces anxiety. That's what causes depression. But if you can say, I'm going to develop myself so I can help other people,
Right. You have purpose now.
that's the purpose
And
that
you're
we live
helping,
for.
and you have purpose.
And
That's
I
one
think
of
we're
the things I
wired
love
for it.
about, my job in healthcare is being able to help others. And then when you're studying or refining your craft, you're becoming an expert, it is to help others. And my team, I talk to them about all the time about what important work they're doing because it's part of helping
Yes.
others. And part of the challenges of helping others or interacting with people is that things come up. It is real life. So it's not going to be exactly the same every day. It's not always going to be smooth. It's not always going to run on time. It's not always going to be the outcome you intended.
Oh, yeah.
But that's life. And there's so many lessons within at least I feel like my profession, even of taking care of others, that you can then apply to other aspects of life if you're open to it. If you don't view it as a negative, if you view it as this is life.
This is life.
It's part of it.
And to be my best self, what can I do today for someone else?
Right. That's a great question.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what it's all about.
I like ending on that. Michele, where can they find more of your work and connect with you?
So I have a really comprehensive website,
Mm-hmm.
and you can learn about the books, or you can see some of the podcasts or media I've done. And it's my 3-part name. So Michele with 1 L, Rigby Assad. Or if you can't remember that, if you just type in Michele and CIA into Google, you'll
find you.
Exactly.
I love that.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Michele, so much for sharing your insights and experiences with us today. I think there's a lot of powerful messages in your stories. To our listeners, be sure to check out Michele's books, Breaking Cover and Get Off the X. And remember, your best self is always within reach. Thank you.